The world deserves to see my uniqueness, Nick's uniqueness, and anybody who's listening. In fact, it's quite, in my opinion anyways, it's a huge disservice. It's a huge disservice if you don't allow the world to see your uniqueness. Because think about it, like, who do we admire the most? Like, for me, I'm here in Canada and Toronto, so we're big hockey fans as well. So Sidney Crosby, for me, like in basketball, it always was, and still till this day will be Kobe Bryant, Beyonce. We all admire the people that went all in on their uniqueness. So if you admire all these people, you realize that they breathe the same air as we do. They put their pants on one leg at a time. Why wouldn't you let the world see your uniqueness and let the world come to you?
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Nick Carrier's Best You podcast. I am super fired up today to have the one and only Jas Takhar with me today. Jas, I just want to start off by saying thanks so much for spending the time with me today.
I appreciate being here, Nick, man. I love seeing that smile, and I can hear the smile as well. It's infectious, and so great job on all the content that you're putting out there. As a content creator myself, I know how hard it is, and so congratulations and kudos to you for putting out the effort and putting out and spreading so much positivity and optimism, especially at the time of this recording. Not all the news is positive, and so you're doing a great and fantastic job and just doing your part, man, putting out a lot of positive vibration. So congratulations to you.
Well, I appreciate it. You guys just got an awesome glimpse into what this episode is going to be like, and it's funny that you said the smile thing, because your smile is amazing, and I feel like right when you popped on the Zoom, you had your big smile on, and I was going to say the exact same thing. You guys are going to have this amazing positive energy that you're going to get from this podcast and from this man right here. But to introduce you real quick, Jas. Jas is an entrepreneur and founder of REC Canada, based out of Toronto. He built REC to the #1 real estate firm under the ROyal LePage umbrella in Canada. And he's the host of the REC Experience podcast, where you've interviewed Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, Kevin Harrington, and many other amazing people. So I'm excited to get into a lot of that stuff. But to kind of start today, Jas, I want to give everybody a little bit more context. And so you grew up in Toronto, and your parents are immigrants from India. And I also learned from your content that you maybe weren't the best student growing up. But I also learned that you kind of realized your passion relatively early on. And so with that being said, what was that passion, and what gave you the confidence that I can go pursue that?
Yeah, so and thanks for putting it lightly. I was probably a really bad student. And it came for me, I at the age of like 12, 13, I understood really quickly that I just didn't learn like that. Like, I loved school. Like, I liked being around people. I liked being kind of the class clown. I didn't even mind being sent to the principal's office, because I knew before meeting the principal or going into the vice principal's office, I had to probably sit with the secretaries for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I was just like wanting, I guess, I was charming them as much as I could, and making them laugh and making them smile. And so for me, at that age of 12, 13, I started to get, I started a paper. I had my first paper route. And I realized quickly that a lot of my friends, as they wanted the money, they wanted to work, but they were scared just to make a phone call to like the district manager to get a route. And so I would make the call and get another route under my name, and then start to kind of broker out the routes. And then I started to realize, like, okay, wow, like, people are just like, especially in my circle, they're just like scared. They're insecure about making a phone call. They're not confident to hear a no. And so for me, it started at a very young age. And as I went into my teens, I started working retail jobs, always in the sales and service kind of industry, right? And then at 18, 19, I got a job at a bank here. In Canada, we have 6 major banks. And so I got a job at one of the major banks as a sales, believe it or not, the title was sales and service specialist. Back then, it wasn't online banking, it was telephone banking. And that's where I really honed in my skills, because they had like a 2-3 month training on just like all things phone skills. Because Nick would call into the bank and say, can you pay a bill? And then my job was to get all that done for you, but then also offer you a mortgage, a line of credit, a credit card, whatever it was. And then I did that for 2.5, 3 years. Then I went into car sales, and now I've been doing real estate for 15 years. So for me, it was almost like I was being pulled. I truly, Nick, and I hope the viewers and listeners kind of get this, that I really hit the lottery, man. Like, I hit the lottery with my mom and dad coming to Canada and just coming into North America in general. So if anybody, I'm sure most of your listeners are, obviously you have a lot of listeners worldwide, but some of them are in the States there. But like in India, it's tough, man. Like my parents were farmers back home, right? And so they came to Canada. That was by far, I hit the lottery once we got here. Very multicultural country, but you have opportunity. And then the real lottery that I'm living in now is the fact that I was being pulled by this calling, and the calling was always connecting with people. Like, what we're doing right now, I could do all day long. In fact, I have my own podcast, as you mentioned it, and I do it for free. Like, I don't get paid to do my podcast. You're not paying me to do it. And I don't care. I just want to try to bring some type of level of awareness to one person that is listening. 99.9% of people might say, I don't like the way this guy talks and he moves his hands and he's all over the place. But it's just that one person I'm hoping that is listening right now that understands that if they can just be self-aware and find out what they're passionate about, and then go all in on that and be okay with making mistakes. And so that's my calling, man. I want to touch as many people as I possibly can, and that's the legacy I want to leave.
Yeah, well, you're damn good at it. I'll tell you that. You're really good at transferring energy. I'm sure in person with people, I'm meeting you here via Zoom, and I'm already getting super energetic and my blood's flowing. I'm sure everybody listening is as well. So you definitely have a calling there. But I want to kind of backtrack a little bit to, you talked about when you were 12 and 13 and you started this paper route, and other people who were your friends maybe were just scared to make the call, or maybe scared to go knock on a door because they weren't sure how to interact with the person. But you didn't have that sort of fear. Do you felt like that was something that was kind of just you were born with, or was that something that maybe your parents instilled in you? But how did you get the confidence to go out there and put yourself out there?
So big shout out to my 2 older brothers as well. I say it a lot that it's a healthy reminder that you're closer to the bottom than you are to the top when you have 2 older brothers. Protected me, but also didn't let me get too high on myself. Until this day, it's the same. We're very close and have a great relationship. Some things came out of necessity, Nick. Like my father, for example, grade 7, grade 8 education, mother grade 4 education. And so they also didn't speak the language really well. And because of their own insecurities, specifically my mother, never really learned the language. Like even till this day, my mom doesn't really know how to speak English. She knows some words, obviously the bad swear words that she's heard her 3 sons speak of and say. But my father, like when we were going into McDonald's, for example, he wouldn't go to the line and order because he was a little, like, he just didn't know the language well, and he was probably insecure about his accent. And so he would make me go. And obviously as a 7-year-old, I wanted to eat McDonald's, and you can tell I still like it sometimes. But I had to. So my father would go, "You want something? Go order it." And so even that something that small still rings. Like I still get my kids to do things. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 6-year-old more like. I try not to order things from Uber Eats and stuff at home. I want them to pick up the phone and order the pizza, because I think it's such a lost art now. And so because back then I had to go order the food, you start to build up confidence. It's like going to the gym, right? Like the first time picking up the bar is so hard and it's so tough. Let alone to think that you're going to pick up a couple of plates or even a 45 plate, but you got to put in the reps. As you put in those reps over time, the muscle will start to get stronger. What I want people to hear is the muscle in here, the brain, the most underutilized muscle we have. In fact, scientists have only figured out 10 to 15% of its capability. Right. And so that's all we're actually even really using most of the time. And so if you can put in the reps for your brain, making decisions, something as simple as I mentioned, like just going to order and picking up the phone, over time, the more that you do it, the more confidence you get. See, confidence for me anyways, in my opinion, comes from experience.
Yeah.
You have to do it. Everyone was scared to do everything till they actually did it. Then it just becomes slightly easier.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a huge lesson, because I remember when I was young too, my parents making me like actually call my friends' parents to ask them if they wanted to hang out and stuff like that. And I probably haven't made that direct correlation that has really helped me make phone calls and be outgoing and stuff like that moving forward. But I think that's
yeah, I was going to say, Nick, like if you think about it, there's probably sometimes you called your friend's parents and they said no. You had to figure it out. You know what I mean? And like you had to figure it out. What, like maybe they said, maybe you asked, can little Jimmy come over for a couple of hours? They said no, and you said, okay, can it be an hour? And they said no. You said, okay, can it be 10 minutes? You know what I mean? Like you had to figure it out. And also, even if they outright said, Nick, never call us, like, no, he's not allowed to come today. You heard a no, and you understood that, okay, the next time you did it, you probably got a yes. Maybe you figured it out. Maybe you didn't even put it together. But if you think back, you probably did, which is, oh, maybe I have to call at a different time. Or maybe I have to ask a different way, right? And you could tell, like, you're natural at what you're doing now. A lot of it probably came with working those muscles at a much earlier age.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things is that some people don't realize the importance of those small little things, because I feel like a parent or somebody else, when they don't make one phone call, they're like, oh, what's not making that one phone call really going to do me? But then they don't realize that it happens again and then again and then again. And then they don't realize that 10 years, 15, however long down the road, that the lack of follow through and the lack of doing those small things consistently over a long period of time has actually set them back.
It's actually the small things that add up, right? That like when you talk about the phone calls, I lead an organization here of salespeople, and I have 34 realtors and 10 support staff, and my realtors, the ones that we have now, they built up that muscle. But I've seen a lot of people come and go in this industry of real estate, but in sales and service in general. As I mentioned, it's been a total of 25 years for me, right? And so they say if you do something for 10,000 hours, you've mastered it. I had my team go back and look at kind of the hours. I'm probably at like 23,000 hours. I'm not saying any of that to impress anyone. It's really to impress upon people like where all this data is coming from for me. And so the people that like the people that come into this industry, why they leave is because they never built up the self-confidence to make phone calls, to meet people. Like we're talking specifically about phone calls, but like in sales, in business, you gotta be okay to meet people, and some will like you and some won't. Like I hear it sometimes, like, I hate people. I'm like, what are you doing in this business? Like, it's all about people. In fact, more than I'm not trying to say like get out of the business just so you get out of the business, but I'm like, go find what you really like to do. Because see, when I'm doing paperwork, for example, that I hate. So I delegated it out. In fact, I had a computer for 2 years now. I haven't touched a computer yet because I just knew I was wasting time, and I'm not a good typer. And I still type like this. And so I said, I'm going to do everything from my phone because all I want to do is talk to people. And so the phone was for me the best way to do it, or I want to meet people face to face. And so everything else I either got rid of like completely through delegation, or I just realized that I don't need to do it. So for example, there's a bunch of shelves behind me here. I didn't put up one of them, Nick. Like Jas is not somebody that you should give a hammer to, right? Or any tools. And so I know that about myself. And so instead of trying to do it, I got somebody else to do it. Okay. In fact, my co-host actually put everything up. She got the tool belt, did it all. And she reminds me of it on a regular basis. But what I was doing in that time was thinking of new ideas on how to get business, because that's my talent, but it's also something that gets my juices flowing, right? And so if you don't want to ever make phone calls, or you don't like people and business is not your thing, that's okay. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge somebody else about it. Go do what will keep you up late at night and get you and spring you out of bed in the morning, because it's coming from, like, I want people to really hear this, that for me, it has been the most fulfilling and gratifying feeling of all time, because I get to like tap dance into work. And I call it, like, I'm doing air quotes, because it really isn't work. It's really a hobby. And I get that feeling every single day. Now, I'm in the client service business, so there's times where I have to put out fires and all that kind of stuff. But I understand that's just part of the process.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think that was a really good transition into how you need to spend time doing what you're passionate about. Don't spend time doing the things that you hate. And I think one of the reasons why so many people spend time doing things that they don't like or that isn't their passion is because they end up taking somebody else's definition of success and adopting it for themselves. And so I think that's one of the biggest faults of a lot of people, because of social media and TV and all that stuff, is that somebody thinks like, okay, that must be success, so that's what I'm going to chase after. And then after a while, they're like, oh crap, it's not actually what I want. I spent all this time doing the wrong thing that I'm not actually passionate about. So I talk a lot about defining your own version of success and going after that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore, Nick, because for me anyway, success means getting to do what you want to do every single day, right? And so I always think of the middle brother. He's not into business. He wouldn't think about becoming an entrepreneur or becoming self-employed or any of that. Like, in fact, if myself and my eldest brother were kind of cut from the same cloth, if we come up with a new investment strategy or a new investment idea or a new business, the middle brother just tunes out, because for him, he is very, very happy and he's very successful, but not in the traditional sense of uber wealthy. He doesn't care about any of that. He has 3 kids, 2 daughters, and a son. He gets to see them 5 hours a day, gets to spend tons of time with them. He's probably in happiness most when obviously he's with them. But aside from that, when he's cutting everyone's grass, like he cuts like 4 or 5 people's grass in the area, he's not charging them for it, but he has his headphones on, he has a beer while he's doing it, and he's relaxed. He looks at myself and my brother and says, you guys are crazy. Like, wow, what's with these 13, 14-hour days and dealing with clients and all that? And for myself, it's oxygen. Like, for me, I wouldn't be able to breathe if I wasn't able to do this. Like, when I go on vacation with my wife and kids, and my wife knows this, and so I say it all the time, for the first couple of days, it's a lot of work. Like, because as I mentioned, I got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. Like, I'm not used to the crying and all that. I'm daddy. Daddy gets to come home, and my wife does a fantastic job with what she does with the kids. But I get to generally come home and be the lovable guy and throw them around, and we get to play around. But on vacation, it's not like that, because now daddy's there all day. And so for me, that feels like work. When I'm in this setting, it's like not a minute is really, I'm never really working, because it's not that big of a deal. Like, I don't take myself so seriously. And I understand, because it took me a while to deal with my insecurities as well, right? And my insecurities were that, okay, I'm not educated from a formal school perspective. I also, I might have a stutter sometimes. I might not be able to articulate my thoughts, or I'm very passionate. And some people, as I mentioned earlier, don't like that. I can't spell. Like, I can't spell whatsoever. I'm really bad at spelling. And so it took me a while to get over that. But man, when I did, the world deserves to see my uniqueness, Nick's uniqueness, and anybody who's listening. In fact, it's quite, in my opinion anyways, it's a huge disservice. It's a huge disservice if you don't allow the world to see your uniqueness. Because think about it, like, who do we admire the most? Like, for me, I'm here in Canada and Toronto, so we're big hockey fans as well. So Sidney Crosby, for me, like in basketball, it always was, and still till this day will be Kobe Bryant, Beyonce. We all admire the people that went all in on their uniqueness. So if you admire all these people, you realize that They breathe the same air as we do. They put their pants on one leg at a time. Why wouldn't you let the world see your uniqueness and let the world come to you?
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And I love how you said the world deserves to see what your uniqueness is, because I truly believe that it's everybody's responsibility to become the best version of themselves, the best version of you, not the best version of anybody else. And I could talk about that stuff for days, but
I'll be able to, because the podcast is called The Best You. So
yes, yeah, so for sure. But I want to kind of get back to a little bit of you and your kind of career timeline, if you will. So you said you were in the banking for about 2.5 years and did some other stuff in sales and service. When did you make the jump to real estate, and what sparked you to make that jump?
So about 15 years ago, exactly. 15 years ago, exactly, I made the jump into real estate. I was in car sales for 3 years. Loved that business. And if for any reason I got tired of real estate, I can't see that happening. But if I ever did, I would probably go back into cars. It's just a fun business. You have a bunch of characters that you work with. But at that time, I started to feel like there was kind of a ceiling and a cap on me. I always envisioned bigger things. I'm a very ambitious person by nature, and I envisioned that I was going to be able to create more wealth. And for me, it was always going to be done through real estate. And because I just have a lot of family members, I sold cars to guys and gals that were real estate agents, but they were also real estate investors. And so that always sparked my interest, right? Even as a kid, we always had like our basement apartment rented. I understood the math behind it because my father was a taxi driver, my mother was a factory worker. There wasn't a lot of the household income wasn't that large with 3 boys as well. We didn't live lavishly, but we also didn't live poor. We were very middle class, right? And so I understood that real estate was going to be the vehicle for me. In fact, it was only going to be from the perspective of investing in real estate. So I signed up for the course thinking I was going to learn about investing into real estate. But as I opened up the books, this was like, how to become a real estate agent. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, I'll go through with this because I have the background in sales. I started to also feel that cap in terms of income in car sales. You can probably hit that threshold of 6 figures, and don't get me wrong, 6 figures is a huge number, but I always wanted more, right? And guys that were there for 15, 16 years, that's kind of the number that they were flirting with. And I was like, man, I don't see myself being here for that long to earn that income. And so I made the jump into real estate, and I started off with a mentor who took me under his wing, pretty much was working for free for him. In fact, now looking back at it, I would have paid him with everything he taught me. I also had a fantastic mentor, the owner at the car dealership. Same thing, like I would have paid him for all the stuff he taught me. And then going back to real estate, I worked for this gentleman underneath his wing for 2 years, stuck with him in his company, and started to kind of make my way into growing my real estate business. And then, now at 15 years later, I got my own team with a business partner of 34 realtors, man.
That's awesome. So you talked about how you were kind of under this guy's wing in real estate for a couple of years. And a lot of my audience is relatively younger and, like I talked to you beforehand, self-improvement focused, and they're probably working for somebody else right now. And because a lot of the listeners have that sort of drive, they're wanting something more. And people who often have that drive are impatient with the process, and they want to make that jump now, or they want to start their own business now. They want to create their own real estate firm now. What's the balance between being patient with the process and being like, okay, pump the brakes, versus like, it's time to take the jump?
Look, I think if you'll know it, you'll feel it when you should make the jump. And if you're unsure of it, I think the best advice I can give you is, if you're working at a place, but you want to have your own business, show that you can do it. Show yourself, not anybody else. Show yourself. So what do I mean by that? You're working in a 9 to 5. Okay. Come home, do your thing, get some rest, whatever, but you still got time. Okay. You got 5 hours, let's call it 6 hours probably, but let's just say 5 hours. at least get to, and this is very tactical. So at least get to 50% of the income that you're making in your full-time job with this side job, let's call it side hustle job, okay? And then at least you can, at least you've shown yourself that you can do it. Like you can at least get to 50% with only working 50% of the time, okay? Because then, in my opinion, at that time, then you should probably get rid of the job that you're at and go all in on your side business and make that your full business, because now you'll be able to put, because I don't care what business you're getting into, you're going to need to put in 12, 13, 14 hours a day. That's just how it is. So you might as well do it now. Like work your 9 to 5 and then still put in the time into the side hustle, because for whatever you want, whatever business you want to grow, for it to, if you're ambitious and you want to take it to, big heights, then you have to work those long hours. Start now, get the income to 50%, make sales. Like if you're selling something, show that you can sell something. Like, and that's the cool thing with sales. That's what I love, because results speak for itself. Like I get a lot of people around me talking a big game, but it's just like, all right, great. Show me you can sell a book. Show me you can sell a calculator. Like take this calculator and sell it to somebody. Like, let's see you sell the product or service. Show yourself, as I'm saying, as I said before, get it to 50% and then leave that job and then go all in on your side business.
I like that. I like that. Super practical advice. So I want to make the jump to talking a little bit about leadership. You started about 15 years ago. Now you've grown your team to about 34 other realtors, maybe 10 other support staff. What have you learned through your own experience about how to lead people in terms of what maybe have you screwed up doing in terms of your interactions with maybe people on your team and be like, oh, I need to do this differently?
Yeah, I put people in the wrong positions early on. I never was like a demanding person from the perspective of like, Nick, you're my employee. You work for me, then work your ass off and shut up and sit there. That's never been in my nature. I'm not that person. So one thing I had always going for me, and it's really playing itself out, is I've always been like, Nick, what do you need, man? Like, how can I help? How can I help do this with you? I can tell Nick that you're having a bad day. I'm a very good sense of people. Like if Tyler, he's my air traffic controller, kind of one of my directors, and he comes in, one of my senior people, the way that he says hi to me, like, now during COVID, he gives me a little pound, and I can tell the way that he says my name. I know that he's not, because 99.9% of the time he comes in very positive, ready to rock. Like we have a saying around here, okay, like, what are we doing new today? Well, we're just trying to take over the world like we always are. It's kind of the running joke, like Animaniac. Same thing we did yesterday. Pinky trying to take over the world, right? And so we the way that he comes in, I already kind of have an idea if this is going to be a day where I can push with him, or it's going to be a day where, I'm not going to push him a little bit. I'm going to give him a couple of hours to settle in, or it might be a full day. And if it goes on for 2 days, we're going to have a conversation. Like, in fact, just before we started this, it's so funny that you asked this question, and I'm talking specifically with Tyler. Tyler had a baby 3 months ago, I believe it is now, little baby girl, and him and it was his birthday at the start of the month, the 2nd of September. And him and I didn't, because he was off with his wife and the baby, him and I didn't do our normal lunch and drinks, and we didn't do that. So I just asked him right now, I was like, Ty, when can we go for lunch? And he's like, oh, for my birthday? Don't worry, Jas. I was like, no, not only for your birthday, man. You and I just haven't had lunch together in a while. I miss you, right? And so I make sure I do that on a regular basis. My creative director just walked in and he's leaving for the day. They know I don't micromanage them, but they let me know when they come in, and they let me know when they're leaving. Not because I'm the boss. It's more of like, well, when you walk into your house, you probably acknowledge your siblings or your father, or hey dad. You don't necessarily go up and hug them and kiss them all the time, but there's an acknowledgement of respect. When I come in, they might be already in. Very rare that somebody gets in before me like that. That's just who I am. I like to come in really early, but I'm gonna acknowledge them. And for the rest of the day, like, look, you're here. We have a lot of fun. get your job, get your work done. I don't expect you to be obsessed like myself because you don't get paid. You don't take home the money that I take home. This is not necessarily like your baby. I get that. I want you to make it yours. I want you to own it, take ownership of it, and do the best that you can. But I'm not stupid. I understand that you're not getting paid like I am. Do your best that you possibly can, and understand that you're allowed to have bad days. And you're allowed to make a lot of mistakes around here, just not the same ones over and over, because that's just laziness, and that's just disrespectful to the rest of the team. And so very, very conscious, Nick, of how Tyler plays in the sandbox with Stephen, my creative director, my director of sales and marketing, Laura Stewart. I need to make sure that she plays well. Like, I know what also makes them happy, for a lack of a better word. So for example, with Laura, if she's just having a bad day, we say, yeah, let's have a burger day, because that's her favorite. I just know that's her favorite. I go very deep with my people. I know a lot about them. I'm always checking in on them. I would say 65% of my day is just checking in on my team, because I think once I know they're good, we're a very deadly organization. Because of the people, the culture, the environment allows for a lot of mistakes. It allows for a lot of freedom. It allows for a lot of creativity, because we create a lot of content that produces a lot of sales for us and relationships that I want to make sure that they understand that there's no cap on creativity around here. You also are very empowered to if you're speaking with one of our clients, and like we just had it happen a couple of days ago, Laura was speaking with one of our clients. She heard that their cousin, I believe, passed away. They're not checking in with me to go spend $50-$60 on some flowers and send it in. You do that on your own. And nor am I going to look at the credit card bill and be like, who sent the flowers and why? You know what I mean? It's you do this. It's why we're able to move very quickly. I don't know if you can see it behind me. There's a sign there that says ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
It's something that we like to do. We like to talk about a lot here, which is just get started, get moving, keep trying things. We'll figure out how accurate we are as we go on. We'll adjust if we went too far left to the target. I believe speed, in sports. We were talking a little off air about our favorite football teams, and speed generally kills in sports. It is the intangible. In business, it's the same thing. Now, that sign says ready, fire, aim. That doesn't mean that don't ever aim, because a lot of people are hitting me up on social saying, well, you can't just not be strategic. I'm like, I never said that.
Yeah.
I said, make sure that, get started. Don't fall into paralysis by analysis.
Yeah. No, I really like that, I feel like everybody listening is going to be like, I want to work for him. They're like, you get.
Well, yeah, man. Yeah, I think the culture that we set up here is of one, and this really comes down to all the places that I worked. I because I've been in a lot of places for not I haven't had a job ever for 2 months. That's just not who I ever was. I was always at a place for minimum of 2 years. And so I got to know the managers, my direct reports. If it was in the banking, it's more of a corporate kind of world. The ones that I connected with, the ones that I would run through a wall for, were the ones that cared about me, right? It wasn't did you do your job today? I don't think I've ever asked any of my guys at all the times. And somebody listening and watching would be like, well, you're an idiot, because I don't do it like that. I don't ask if, hey, did you get your job done today? I expect it. You're here. We're doing this together. We have a lot of fun, but we also don't lose sight that we have a lot of work. They know that I rub off on people, right? And they're wanting more now out of their lives. Look, I think the best compliment that I've gotten and that I will get is when my people that have been with me for a while, when they leave. And I mean that from the perspective of when they leave to do what they're truly passionate about, which might be to start their own, to be the best of themselves, right? And we were talking about this earlier, Nick, that once they realize that, you know what, I want more, Jas. To me, that would be the best compliment, because I might have had a 0.5, 0.2% part in it, and then I know I did my job.
Yeah. I love it. And one of the things I've been thinking about in regards to you and your team and everything like that. I don't know if you've ever heard of the book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, but it's an awesome book. It's a New York Times bestseller, and it talks about how like one of the most important things in the workplace is trust. And it's not just this soft topic. It's this topic that is super hard, and it actually has monetary returns, and teams that don't trust each other actually are costing themselves millions and millions of dollars. And so you guys are definitely doing it right.
Oh, I truly, yeah. And I know which book you're talking about. I definitely know the author you're talking about, author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, this guy's Stephen Covey is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of business and self-development books. And so talking about the speed of trust, for me, I actually, that's the only thing that I can hang my hat on, that I spend a lot of time with my coworker, like my colleagues here, because I believe in it so much. I think it's so important to allow people to make mistakes, make them feel comfortable. And that's really what we do well here, is just make people feel comfortable. You know, I get it. I do hear it. And sometimes I hear it from my own business partner. Love him. I mean, it's a guy that's been in the trenches with me for 15 years. And he's not that person necessarily. He's not the touchy-feely person, right? He's very like, the way that he works is very regimented, and and for our business, we need that, because I'm so out there and I'm so on the offense. He plays defense and he does a damn great job at it. But I'm the touchy-feely guy, and it'll be like sometimes like, what are you doing? Like, why are you spending so much time? I'm like, it's gonna pay off in 10 years.
Yeah.
In 10 years, it's actually gonna pay off, and we're gonna be here in 10. We're gonna be here for the next 50 years. Why not invest in people? Like, it's just gonna pay off in the long run.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, Jas, I bring people on the podcast who I feel like have done an awesome job up to this point in their life, getting closer to the best version of themselves, and they're constantly working on getting closer and closer. And like we've talked about up to this point, everybody has a uniqueness, or somebody has a superpower, and yours, obviously, at least one of them, is connecting with people and building relationships, whether it's when you were 12 and 13 selling newspapers, whether it was when you were working at a bank for 2 and 3 years, or whether it's building trust with your team. You know how to connect with people. So if somebody was to come up with you, or come up to you and be like, I just have a problem connecting with other individuals. I have a problem connecting with my boss, connecting with my other coworkers, connecting with my significant other, whoever it is, what's maybe like 1 or 2 practical things that you would advise them to start doing with that other individual so that they can start connecting at a higher level?
Go to that relationship with the mindset of giving, because most people get into interactions and relationships with the mindset of taking. And so if you go there giving, and you give and can do it consistently without, and I'm not trying, like, I want to make sure nobody hears this, Nick, as a manipulative tactic or something like that, right? Like, it's actually just, I wake up in the morning and I ask myself the same question. I've been doing it for 20 years, is how am I going to bring value to the most people today? Because I know by bringing value to people, bringing value to the marketplace, it will all come back. See, I already start with in the place that I got way more than I ever signed up for anyways. Like, I'm not only born and raised in Toronto, but I'm born and raised in the north part of Toronto, in an area called Rexdale, that is not the area where you see a lot of business leaders come out of, entrepreneurs, people in leadership. You don't see a lot of that. In fact, actually, it's funny. Yeah, I know you're in Nashville. PK Subban actually is from the area that I'm from. Okay, exactly. Like, he grew up, I don't know, 6-7 minute drive, 8-minute drive. Okay. And so it's not the area that's it's not the most positive environment. And so what I realized is if somebody else has done what I wanted to do, then I can just reverse engineer that. Like, it's already been done. Right. And so what I would tell people is go to the relationship to give. And then do that on a consistent basis every single day. And understand that at first it's going to be very uncomfortable, because it's not in your comfort zone. everything that you ever want in your life is right outside your comfort zone. Like, I can probably yourself, Nick, like the first time you were going to do a podcast, you were like, holy, I don't know if I can swear, but holy crap. I got to turn on the mic. Somebody's going to hear my voice. You're not comfortable. Then you did it. And then you did it a second time. And you're like, okay. And then you start to feel more comfortable. And then what happened with your comfort zone, it got stretched. Right. And so it was everything you wanted, which was to start a podcast at that time, was just right outside that comfort zone. And so you have to do it consistently. Start off with starting off with the mindset that you're going into this relationship to ask. Hey, like, okay, for example, you use the boss situation, Mr. or Mrs. Boss, how can I be like, what's your pain point today? What's your pain point this past week? What's the pain point in the organization? Because especially if that boss has a boss, they're getting reamed at about something. They're getting told everything. But if your boss is the owner of a business, even better. Great. Where's the pain point in the business? I want to help. Right away, the boss now is listening like, holy crap, like you're coming to me without asking for, yeah, and it's not going, again, you can't go there to take, which means that, so what can I do for you, Mr. and Mrs. Boss, and then how much are you going to pay me for it? That's not what I'm talking about. If you're going there and say, what is your pain point? How can I bring you value? How can I be of service? Do that consistently. You watch that relationship change over time.
Yeah.
I promise you it will change over time.
Yeah, I love that. I love that advice. I definitely loved going in with the idea that you're going to give rather than take, because I do feel like so many people have that other mindset in their head, unfortunately. But I want to make sure I get down to the last few questions and am respectful of your time. I would be remiss if I didn't ask. You probably get asked a decent amount of times, but your podcast, you've had some amazing people on. I watched the full episode with Gary V, a little bit with Kevin Harrington, some awesome stuff. You're a great interviewer, and also obviously have some awesome guests. What are some of the biggest things that you've learned since having the podcast?
So my podcast talks to, like, my listeners are majority real estate investors and entrepreneurs and people in like that want to learn more about leadership, very similar to yours as well, Nick. And what I learned over all the interviews I've done, I think I'm at like 120 episodes or something like that now, is that no matter what, there's so much crossover between real estate people and entrepreneurs and really anybody that's hit success in what we were talking about earlier, like happiness, finding happiness. And it was taking that leap of faith. Everyone was scared. Every single interview, every single person, like even the people that have never been on my podcast and all the investors and real estate purchasers that I help, like now some of them have 100 doors or now they have their 11th door. But damn, I remember when they were getting their first. I remember when I was getting my first property, I was shaking to sign. Gary, one of my bigger podcast episodes with Gary Vaynerchuk, when he started, he was scared. Like he was starting a new business, Grant Cardone. I don't know how many, I think he's $1.8 billion worth of real estate. The first property he bought, he was scared. I actually asked him, what are you scared of nowadays? He's like, everything. He's like, Jas, anything I do, I'm scared shitless, man. Like I start a new business, I'm still scared, And so that is the overwhelming theme. In fact, what I did is I transcribed all my 120 episodes, and then I did what is it called, like a word count or something like that. And what came up the most was taking action and taking a leap of faith.
I love those things. And because one of the things that you try to do is you provide content that allows people to remove the friction so that they can pursue their dreams. And one of the things I was going to ask was, what do you mean by removing friction? But essentially, I feel like you just answered it. It's everybody has some sort of friction, some sort of fear that they need to overcome. And that's the biggest obstacle that everybody has to achieving whatever their version of success is.
Yeah, so give me a sec here. There you go. There is a sign of
removing friction.
All right, so there's a reason for that. Yes, exactly what you said. I'm actually writing a book, and it's titled "Removing Friction: Getting Out of Your Own Way." So what you just said was perfect. I just find we get in our own way with insecurities, and like when I was speaking about the insecurities earlier, and let me just come back to me here because I like seeing myself too there.
Yeah.
When we were speaking about insecurities earlier, once I became my best self and became authentic, the world came to me, man. Like I'm talking to Nick from Nashville right now. Like, what the heck is going on in my life? Like, it's awesome, you know. Like, and I did a podcast 3 months ago with this girl Reem in Saudi Arabia, and then I did one with a guy in Africa, and I'm like, holy crap! And the more that I'm myself, the more the world wanted to see it, and so and that's why I'm coming out with this book, and that's why there's this sign, removing friction, which is remove all those insecurities, and I promise you, whatever you want in this world, and I don't want people sitting there like, oh my God, it's all about money. No, money's awesome because it can buy you freedom, and it can buy you time with your family, and it can do a lot of great things. But I'm just talking about being happy. I'm just talking about being happy, smiling. Like, look at Nick's face, look at my face. It's a great feeling. And then you can help others, like we most of us feel best about ourselves when we help others. And so it's why I say it's actually selfish. It's actually selfish if you're listening or watching right now, if you are not becoming the best you, because you're not allowing other people to feel good about themselves.
Amen to that. Amen to that, because that's one of the things I say so much of the time. Don't become the best version of yourself for you. Do it for other people, because that's who it's really going to end up benefiting the most. Because I truly believe it's like one of my parts of like my mission is that when individuals become the best version of themselves, their family, their community, and the world end up being better off for it. And that's why I think it's so important. So you really hit the nail on the head right there. I love it, Jas. I love it. Well, before I ask the last question, I want to acknowledge you for defining success for yourself and not letting those things like not very great in school, or maybe having a little bit of a stutter, not being able to spell very well, and all those things, not letting those things hold you back and not letting that friction stop you from taking a leap of faith. I think it's super special, and your positivity is second to none. I think everybody listening to this episode can feel that and can hear that, and they're going to want to follow you even more. So I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Nick, man. I'm having a blast. I get to do this on a regular basis. It is, even like 3-4 years ago, I could never have imagined this. I could never have imagined speaking to people with so much like there's no care, because I'm just being myself. And if you like me, that's awesome. Let's connect. Let's talk. Let's let's try to build a relationship. And if you hate everything that came out of my mouth today, that's okay. You won't waste any more time on me. Go waste time on yourself.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, before I ask the last question again, everybody's going to want to go get more of you. A lot of people I know well. So make sure you guys go to jastakhar.ca, which is JASTAKHAR.ca, and I'll have it linked up in the show notes. Make sure you go to his Instagram at Jas Takhar 13 and Facebook Jas Takhar, and then make sure you go listen to his podcast, the REC Experience Podcast, everywhere you can listen to podcasts, YouTube, and anywhere you can find audio. Anywhere else that people should go to find you?
Yeah, man, I just started a pretty cool new text community. It works right across the world. The number there is 647-372-0126. 647-372-0126. I would love, there's no cost for it. I would love for somebody to be part of the community and ask questions. If you're having a bad day and you just need maybe you have a question or you just need a little kick in the ass that we all do, I would love to have the opportunity to be that for you.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to be a part of the text community myself. Well, Jas, the last question is, I think that getting closer to the best version of yourself is a constant journey, and I think it's a unique journey. I think that the way that I'm going to get closer to the best version of myself is going to be a little bit different than the way that you get closer to the best version of yourself. So for you personally, if there are 3 things that you can currently do or 3 things that you can currently work on to get closer to that best version of yourself, to get closer to that best version of Jas Takhar, what are those 3 things that you could do or work on?
Number one would be my health. I've been trying to get a much better hack at just being healthier. I don't want to be healthier necessarily for like to have the 6 pack and all that kind of stuff, just so I feel stronger. Like I just want to feel the strength. I have a lot of energy. It's not from an energy perspective. There's nothing really like, I'm sure that there's a lot of health benefits and like in terms of getting energy, but I can bring it. And so I'm not worried about that. I just want to feel strength. I want to feel stronger. Number 2 would be to spend some more time with my 2 boys, my 6-year-old and 4-year-old. As I mentioned earlier, I was a son of a taxi driver. I am a son, sorry, of a taxi driver and a factory worker. And my father, when you work airport taxi, you work for 22 hours, like in one day straight, and then you have a day off. And then the day off, you sleep most of it because you just work 22 hours straight. And so I didn't get to see my father often, but there's not a day that goes by that he never gave me love. And I never come at it from that perspective. So I know my kids will understand that daddy was living his passion and he's working his ass off. And I try my best to get home at certain times, but I just need to, I'm working on finding a better hack at how can I get home for Friday at 4 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, right? And so I'm rearranging my schedule. And then number 3 would be I want to grow with more people. I also want to grow with more people in terms of my organization. And so I take on a lot of interns because the interns are generally a lot younger, and so I'm bringing them on. They don't have a lot of bad habits, and so it gives me some time to mold. And so I think what I would want to do is grow my organization a little bit bigger.
That's awesome. Well, 3 great things, Jas. I appreciate it. It was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
Of course.